Have you ever wondered if one person's success could actually, truly transform an entire community? Well, today we're going to dive into a case study that outlines a vision for doing exactly that. This is all about turning personal wealth into a massive engine for social change. So, this is the big question, right? It's a huge idea. Can one person's good fortune really lift up everyone around them? Let's unpack how this plan is supposed to make that happen. And this quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the whole mission. This isn't just about personal gain. The idea here is to use that financial freedom to literally rewrite the future for a whole community. Okay, so where does something this big even begin? Let's take a look at the very foundation of this promise of freedom. Well, the engine behind this entire plan is a platform called ONPASSIVE. It's described as a digital ecosystem built by Ashmufere with the specific goal of creating the kind of wealth needed to fund this huge community transformation. But what's the real motivation here? What's the why? The plan is really clear that this is about so much more than just money. It's about purpose. At its core is this simple but pretty powerful idea. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a call to action. The goal is to make sure that any blessings you receive don't just stop with you. They have to flow back out to lift up the entire community. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty, the actual blueprint. How does a vision this grand start to become a reality on the ground? So the plan kicks off with this really smart, three-pronged approach. First, you launch an empowerment hub to create jobs and offer training. Second, you set up O-Shop stores to give local entrepreneurs a way to sell to the world. And third, you start a scholarship fund to invest in the next generation. It's a strategy that hits employment, business, and education all at once. And here you can see the specific digital tools from that ONPASSIVE ecosystem that are meant to power everything. Each tool has a very clear job to do, whether it's OConnect for remote work at the hub or O-Shop for those new business owners. It's basically a complete digital toolkit designed to make it all happen. Now, once that economic and educational foundation is in place, the vision gets even bigger. The next phase tackles the really fundamental stuff, the things every community needs just to be healthy and thrive. And you can see it's a totally holistic approach. We're talking about investing in 4 crucial areas: health programs, affordable housing, dedicated support for women and young people, and of course, critical infrastructure like safe water. It's a full circle strategy for well-being. This statement really drives home the philosophy. It's saying, look, you can't build a prosperous community if its people are not healthy. Healing has to come first. It's the essential first step before any real progress can be made. So the big question is, how do you make this a lasting change and not just a one-time investment? Well, the plan argues that it all comes down to creating a new generation of leaders who think differently. And this slide shows that core shift perfectly. The goal is to move away from an old mindset where it's all about me and leadership is about power to a new vision where the focus is on the community and leadership is about dedication and service. It's a complete change in perspective. And this is what makes the plan so ambitious. See, it's not about just a single donation. The real goal here is to create a cycle that keeps going, where that initial financial freedom is multiplied over and over again into a lasting legacy of opportunity for generations to come. And that brings us right back to the start. In this vision, getting financial freedom isn't the finish line. It's actually just the starting pistol. It's the beginning of the real work of transforming a community. So it leaves us with this final thought. What is the true measure of wealth? This whole plan is built on a really specific answer to that question, that true wealth isn't about what you have for yourself, but about what you empower others to become. All right, today we're going to dive into the vision behind ONPASSIVE, this digital platform that's built around something it calls a victory system. We're going to be digging into a document that lays out its whole philosophy, from its huge overarching mission right down to the specific tools it offers. It feels like the whole vision really pivots on this one phrase, #victory with Ashmufere. And the source material makes it clear. This isn't just some marketing hashtag. No, they're framing it as a real declaration, a moment that's supposed to signal that something totally new has arrived. So that's the big question, right? What is this new ecosystem all about? What problems is it supposed to solve, and who is it really for? Let's break down the key ideas that the source document lays out for us. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with that declaration of victory. Then we'll go inside the new ecosystem and see what tools are actually in there. After that, we'll take a look at the role of its founders, dig into its mission of financial freedom, and wrap things up with its call to action. First up, let's talk about that declaration of victory. The source document doesn't treat this like a simple slogan. They're really painting this picture of it being the end of a long, hard road, but also the beginning of a whole new chapter for everyone involved. You know, the document really leans into the emotion here. It's pitched as this huge turning point. The idea is that after some period of struggle, this victory is the actual tangible proof that the system is real, and now it belongs to the people who supported it from the very beginning. That kind of language is clearly meant to create a powerful sense of ownership for them. Okay, so that's the big idea, but how does it actually work? Let's get past the abstract concept of victory and look at the real tools. What are the actual pieces that make up this new ecosystem? Well, the official definition they give is pretty aspirational, to say the least. It's not just a piece of software. They call it a living, breathing network. And the stated goals are all about empowerment and unity, which they say are achieved through this mix of technology and new financial models. So, to bring this down to earth, the document points to 4 main building blocks. You've got O-Connect for meetings, an O-Wallet to handle earnings, O-Verify for compliance stuff, and an O-Shop for new opportunities. The idea is that all these tools work together to create this one self-contained digital world for users. And this is really important. The language they use here is very specific. The document keeps calling it a victory system, and it says it's built on 3 main pillars: artificial intelligence, automation, and this core principle of fairness. Right, a system is just a bunch of code without people, and the document puts a huge emphasis on its early adopters. They call them founders and give them this pretty unique status inside the whole ecosystem. And here, the source draws a really sharp line. It paints this picture where old models just see you as a spectator on the sidelines, but in the ONPASSIVE model, they say the founders are co-pilots, framing them as these active participants who are actually helping steer where the platform goes next. And this co-pilot thing isn't just a nice phrase. It gets formalized with this title, MVC, which stands for Most Valued Customer. The document claims this status comes with some pretty big perks. They're supposed to be the first ones to benefit financially, they're given permanent spots in the ecosystem, and they get priority access. It's basically a promise of both financial stability and being on the inside track. So what's the end game in all of this? What's the why? Well, according to the source material, the entire ecosystem is built to deliver one thing above all else: financial freedom. And wow, this quote really sums up the whole promise, doesn't it? It's a really bold statement. It frames financial freedom not as just some possibility, but as the natural outcome for anyone who's a founder in the system. Now, the document goes out of its way to draw a line in the sand here, to separate its financial model from others. It says the engine behind it all is real products and real customers, and it explicitly distances itself from models that it says are based on endless recruitment. To really drive this home, the source gives us what it calls human stories of victory. These are specific little stories meant to show the global impact. We hear about a founder in Kenya paying for school fees with O-Wallet, a teacher in India using O-Connect for her classes, and a business in Canada using O-Shop to expand. Each one is held up as proof that the system has real-world value. Okay, so we've seen the system, we've heard the mission. Where does it go from here? The document wraps up with a big call to action for its community, one that's designed to create what it calls a global ripple effect. And this vision, it's bigger than just one person's success. They talk about this ripple effect having 3 parts: uplifting entire economies, empowering local communities, and in an age where we're all worried about data, restoring trust in digital platforms. This call to action is actually broken down into a super clear 3-step plan for the founders. First, they're told to rise and step into leadership roles. Second, to reset, to leave behind any old doubts. And finally, to refocus their energy on serving others and growing. It's a pretty clear roadmap for how members are expected to operate. And this last quote, it really captures just how big their ambition is. The source isn't positioning this as just another business. No, they're calling it a revolution, a total change in how we're supposed to think about technology and business.
So that leaves us with this question, which comes straight from the claims in the document itself. Is this a new standard for how technology can be ethical, or is it a whole new blueprint for how to do business online? The source material would argue it's both, which leaves it up to us to figure out where it really fits in today's digital world.
Every fast-growing online community eventually hits a wall, a point where its own growth starts to create confusion. Today, we're going to look at a really interesting case study, how the digital ecosystem ONPASSIVE faced this exact problem and what we can all learn from their journey out of the chaos.
And that's the big question, isn't it? You build something amazing, people are flocking to it, but pretty soon, the core message gets lost in all the noise. Information starts to splinter, rumors pop up, and that incredible momentum you had, it just starts to grind to a halt. That's the crisis we're diving into. Okay, so let's set the scene here. Imagine a massive, booming digital community. Sounds great, right? But without a single central voice to guide it, things started to feel, well, a little lost, like an ecosystem without a true north. And this is what that chaos looked like on the ground. You had community members, they're called founders, literally chasing down information everywhere, jumping between webinars, scrolling through different social media groups, and when there's a vacuum of official info, what fills it? Rumors and people's own interpretations. There just wasn't one place to go for the truth.
The result of all that running around? It's pretty predictable, but it's so damaging. It just creates confusion. It fuels speculation, and worst of all, it starts to chip away at trust, because nobody's really sure what the official story is anymore. The whole community was basically running on guesswork. And this wasn't just about small stuff. The community started asking what the source material calls substantive questions. The big ones, the high-stakes questions that get right to the heart of why the project even exists.
And yeah, first up, the money questions. People were asking, how am I going to get paid? How do I access my commissions? When you've got money on the line, any kind of uncertainty is toxic. This one question alone shows you there was a real crack forming in the community's confidence. Then came the questions about the ecosystem itself. You had terms like most valued customer being thrown around, but members were kind of left scratching their heads wondering, okay, but what does that actually get me? If your core ideas are foggy, your whole value proposition is too. And finally, all this confusion trickled right down to the products. People just couldn't see how it all fit together. They had these different tools, OConnect, OChat, OWallet, but no clear idea of how they were supposed to work as one cohesive system. It's a classic example of when the big picture gets lost. So, how do you solve a crisis like this? Well, not with another email blast or some temporary fix. You have to build a permanent solution. For this community, the answer was to create a new feature that was designed to be the one and only source of truth. They called it ONews 16. But honestly, it's so much more than just a news feed. The key phrase to focus on here is directional compass. It's a tool that was built from the ground up to point every single user in the right direction, showing them exactly where things are, where they're going, and how they fit in. So in the real world, this thing acts like an internal GPS for the whole community. It gives you clear step-by-step guides for everything from how to use a product to how the financial systems work. Every single one of those big, scary questions we saw before, this is where you go to get the direct, official answer. No more guessing. But this wasn't just about fixing a tech problem. It was about changing the culture. The real goal was to transform users from being kind of passive and confused into being active, empowered, and truly knowledgeable members of their own community. And really, it all boils down to this one powerful idea from the source material. Knowledge becomes the new power. I love that. It's a huge shift, right? Power isn't something held by a few insiders anymore. It's handed out to every single member who takes the time to plug into the official source of truth. And when you do that, you create this amazing ripple effect. When people have direct access to info, they spend way less time speculating and way more time actually doing things. They feel empowered enough to teach other people, basically turning into ambassadors of clarity. And that is how you build a stronger community, from the inside out. So if we zoom out, this whole thing isn't just about a new feature on a dashboard. It's about intentionally building an entire culture of transparency. In a digital world that can be so secretive, this was a very deliberate step in the complete opposite direction. This new culture is really built on 3 pillars of clarity. For financials, it means clear timelines and solid security. For products, it's all about understanding their purpose and how they work together. And for the community as a whole, it's about having one unified message for everyone, no matter where they are. And that global part is so important. The big ambition here is that a founder in Nairobi, another in New Delhi, and one in New York are all reading the exact same information at the exact same time and moving forward together. That's how you scale a culture, not just your user numbers.
But this is also about playing the long game. It's not just about fixing today's problems. It's about getting ready for tomorrow's. This central compass is designed to future-proof its members, so that when new products drop or financial rules change, the community already has a place to go for trusted guidance.
The whole journey is really captured in this powerful motto, which is basically a call to action for every single person involved. Rise with knowledge, reset with clarity, and then refocus on building.
So, this case study gives us a fantastic solution, but it leaves us with an even bigger question, one that applies to literally any organization out there. Forget this specific example for a second, and just think, what is the true cost of unclear communication? How much trust, how much time, and how much opportunity do we all lose when we're stuck in a fog of confusion? Now that's something worth thinking about.
So what if your income wasn't tied to the hours you actually work? It's a pretty wild thought, right? Well, that's the core promise of ONPASSIVE. And today, we're going to unpack their vision for founder prosperity. We're going to explore these ideas of automated wealth, shared success, and the kind of lifestyle they claim is possible. Let's dive right in.
This question right here, this is at the absolute heart of the ONPASSIVE vision. The whole idea that technology can build your wealth for you while you're sleeping, it's not just a catchy marketing line. It's really meant to be a direct challenge to the traditional 9-to-5 grind we're all so used to. So how do they say they're going to make this a reality?
All right, so what is the big idea here? What's the why behind this whole system? Well, the source material makes it really clear that this isn't just supposed to be another tech company. No, it's aiming for something much, much bigger, something they see as totally transformative.
This quote from the founder, Ash Mafarah, it really sets the tone for everything. It's not about creating another tool for people who are already successful. The mission, as it's framed here, is to give everyday, ordinary people a way to find extraordinary opportunities. Now that is a bold claim, and it's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. And you know, when they talk about financial freedom, it's not just about having a pile of money. It's about having choices. It's the freedom to decide how you spend your time, who you spend it with, to travel, to give back, all without that constant nagging stress about money. That's a really powerful idea, and it's totally central to their vision. Okay, so that's the dream. But how is this vision of freedom supposed to actually be achieved? Well, the answer, according to the source material, is all about technology. This is where we get into what they call the automation engine, which is basically the core of the entire system. The idea at its core is actually pretty simple. Let the technology do all the heavy lifting for you. You've got artificial intelligence and automation. These are the engines that are working for you 24/7. So you don't have to be chained to a desk. It's all about breaking free from that traditional work model. And this slide really lays out the fundamental shift they're proposing. On one side, you've got the old way. You trade your time, your hours, for dollars. But on the other side, you've got this model where systems are working for you, even when you're not. It's a really powerful contrast when you see it laid out like that.
So what does this actually mean for your day-to-day life? I mean, just imagine this for a second. You wake up in the morning, you check your phone, and you see that your business actually grew, and you earned commissions overnight while you were asleep. That's the kind of massive lifestyle shift they're promising with this automation.
But get this, it's not just about the technology. The second pillar of this whole vision is all about community. They call it a shared prosperity model, and it's a huge part of how this is all supposed to work together. Now this is where things get really interesting. Instead of creating this dog-eat-dog competitive environment, founders are framed as partners, all part of a single ecosystem. The whole idea is collaboration over competition. It's not about fighting for a bigger piece of the pie. It's about making the whole pie bigger for everyone. And that brings us to this key concept they call spillover. The idea here is that one person's success can literally spill over and benefit other people in the network. So as the whole community grows, everyone rises together. It's kind of like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. It's just a very different approach to business growth. Okay, so we've got the automation and we've got the community. But what does all of this actually lead to? What are the tangible results for the founders? This is where we get into the goal of it all: freedom, both financial and personal.
And to make this a little more concrete, the source material points to several potential income streams. We're talking about commissions from something called an O-wallet, earnings from a platform called O-Connect, and even growth from an O-shop. It's this whole ecosystem that's designed to create multiple streams of passive income.
So yeah, this is the big financial shift they described, moving away from a single monthly paycheck to having multiple streams of income that are passive. That's a complete change in how you think about and structure your financial life.
But again, it's not just about the money, and this is a huge point. According to the source, the real prize here is time freedom, the ability to control your own time. That's framed as the most valuable currency there is, more than money, more than anything. And that's a pretty powerful statement about what truly matters.
And the vision doesn't just stop with you, the individual. The final piece of this puzzle is what they call the ripple effect. It's this idea that one person's success can spread outwards, creating positive change for their family, their community, and maybe even the world.
It's a really powerful progression when you think about it. It all starts with one person, one founder, achieving financial stability. Then, that stability flows to their family, right? Bills get paid, stress goes down. From there, it expands to the community, because now that person is in a position to give back, to be a role model. And finally, it connects them to this global family of other successful founders.
And this brings the whole thing full circle, doesn't it? It comes back to this core idea that true happiness isn't measured by the size of your bank account. It's measured by what that money allows you to do, to give back, to support the people you love, and to build a future that feels truly secure.
We'll end on this final quote from the source, and it's an incredibly confident one. The good times are not coming. They are already arriving. It's a bold declaration, isn't it? It shifts the whole promise from some far-off future possibility to a present reality. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. What does it take to truly believe that the future you're hoping for is already here?